Okay, so have you ever wished you could just bypass all the information overload? Just, get straight to those really profound insights, those aha moments that genuinely make you feel like, okay, I get it now. Well, if that sounds like you, then honestly, you've landed in the perfect spot today. We're embarking on a deep dive into some truly ancient wisdom, and it holds this remarkable promise to unlock a hidden power, one that's residing right within you. Our guide for this incredible journey is Om Swami's really insightful book, The Hidden Power of Gayatri Mantra. And this deep dive, it's not about dry theory, not at all. It's about distilling the absolute essence of his teachings. We're talking practical steps, transformative stories, things that bring this timeless spiritual practice vividly into our modern lives, make it real for you. Our mission here, it's pretty clear, really. We want to explore how a truly timeless spiritual practice, the Gayatri Mantra, can be simplified, made incredibly accessible, leading you towards, well, profound inner strength, purity, and ultimately realizing your full, incredible potential. It's not about chasing some external miracle.
Or some supernatural power out there. Instead, it's about discovering the miracle that's inside us. Naturally. It's already there. So, you ready to dive in? Okay, so to really get a handle on Om Swami's motivation, why he wrote this book, he opens with this truly captivating story. Picture this. A master and his disciple, they're out seeking alms, a common practice. They stop at this tiny house, almost falling down, really dilapidated. The master calls out, "Praise the Lord, we've come for alms." Silence. Nothing. He calls again, "Bhiksham dehai." Still no response. So he makes a third call, a final one. And then this little girl comes running out. She apologizes, saying, "Sorry, master, but we have absolutely nothing. Nothing at all to give you." Now here's where the story takes a really unexpected turn. The monk looks at her with just incredible compassion and asks, "Don't say no, my daughter. Can you give me just a handful of dust from the ground?" Dust? You can imagine the girl is utterly surprised. But she does it. She carefully puts a bit of mud into his begging bowl. The master blesses her, and they just continue on their way.
Now, the disciple, naturally, he's both intrigued and, frankly, a little bit upset. Intrigued because, well, the request seems absurd, right?
Right. Dust.
Exactly. And upset because their tradition only allowed them to take alms from one house per day. So he's thinking, who eats dust? We'll have to just drink water today, as my master completely lost his mind.
Well, what's truly striking, I think, about this seemingly strange request is the profound lesson the master immediately gives him. He tells his, bewildered disciple, "My son, by staying hungry today, we have actually transformed one life." And then comes the core insight, the real gem. Aj dihai, kal ful bidegi, which translates so beautifully to, "Today she learned to give a handful of earth, one day she'll give a flower too." Salute. And this isn't just about charity in the way we usually think of it. It's a really powerful, deeply symbolic metaphor for sadhana. Sadhana, as the book explains it, is that continuous path, purifying yourself, elevating your life and the lives of those around you. It fundamentally shows us how even the smallest, most basic spiritual practices, like that first offering, that handful of dust, or maybe overcoming just a minor internal hurdle, how that can actually set the stage for much greater transformations down the line, prepares you for bigger challenges. It's really about building an inner capacity, starting right from zero, maybe in the simplest way possible.
That story really drives home that idea, doesn't it? Accessible spiritual growth, even from the most humble, seemingly insignificant beginnings. So, was it exactly that challenge? People finding earlier spiritual practices maybe too daunting, too complex, that specifically prompted Om Swami to write this particular book, aiming for something simpler, more reachable for modern seekers.
Precisely. That's exactly it. Om Swami recounts how after his previous book on mantras, he met with thousands of people. And a common sentiment, almost like a lament he heard again and again, was that his earlier work felt, daunting. People found some steps maybe unclear, or they felt it was just too hard to muster the courage for really intense sadhana. They yearned for something simpler, something more accessible, something that felt truly within reach. So this book is his answer to that call. He aimed to motivate deeper exploration, kind of like in music, right? You don't usually jump straight into the most complex ragas. You start by learning simple songs, finding joy in that first stage, and then maybe you're naturally drawn to go deeper. His absolute duty, he states very clearly, is not to fascinate you with tall claims of something out there, something supernatural. He's just not interested in telling you about powers that exist externally, beyond your grasp. Instead, his whole purpose is to share the miracle of what's inside us naturally. And this discovery, he assures us, is just as beautiful, empowering, empowering and liberating as any external phenomenon you could imagine. It's a really profound shift, isn't it? From seeking validation or power outside yourself to unlocking the deep capabilities that, well, they already reside within each of us.
Now, a really insightful question the author tackles head-on is, why, specifically, the Gayatri mantra? Out of all the mantras, why this one? He shares his own first-hand experience, stating it unequivocally. The power of mantras is, first, immense. Second, it's profoundly real. And third, it's absolutely accessible to everyone. He uses this fantastic analogy. It's like music. When we listen to music, we can instantly hear the harmony of it, right? And we know just intrinsically that certain chords, certain melodies, rhythms, scales, they evoke specific emotions within us.
Yeah, that's a great comparison.
And this happens whether we know how to sing or play an instrument or read sheet music. The effect is immediate. It's profound. Mantras, he suggests, work in a strikingly similar way, but on the subtle layers of our being, regardless of your intellectual understanding of exactly how they work.
And stepping back just to see the broader context here, the selection of the Gayatri mantra is incredibly significant. Even within the vast, incredibly diverse tradition of Sanatana Dharma, which, as you said, is often called Hinduism, but really it's better understood as a timeless way of life, a way of thinking and being. The Gayatri mantra really stands out. It's widely recognized as the quintessential Vedic mantra. And this tradition, as the author points out, is quite remarkable for its peaceful coexistence of contradictions. It's fascinating. Historically, even when there were territorial wars, political conflicts between kingdoms, you rarely find episodes of actual religious persecution just because one king prayed to a different form of God than another.
That's quite amazing, actually.
It is. Sanatana Dharma truly embodied a way of life that allowed for this peaceful diversity. And within that whole framework, Gayatri is presented as this universal foundational mantra, accessible to all, really, irrespective of their specific spiritual path or background.
And building right on that idea of Sanatana Dharma as a practical way of life, the book also dives into the foundational principles that shape a truly meaningful existence. It outlines 4 really crucial pillars. And these aren't just, abstract ethics. They're the very ground upon which practices like the Gayatri mantra can actually flourish. First, it emphasizes speaking our words carefully, really understanding the immense power they hold. Words matter. Absolutely. Second, it calls for using our resources judiciously, wisely, not just for ourselves, but to benefit ourselves and those around us. Third, it stresses the profound importance of charitable giving, noting that a life lived solely for oneself is just inherently incomplete and must be of use to others, because the unfailing law of the universe, as he puts it, is that whatever you give, it will ultimately grow, it comes back. And finally, it highlights the profound importance of being eternally grateful for everything in our lives, cultivating this attitude of abundant appreciation.
This raises a truly important question for all of us, doesn't it? If we are seeking wealth, and that could be material prosperity or deep spiritual abundance, or both, where does it actually reside? Where should we look? The text makes it incredibly clear. The wealth that you seek, the spiritual wealth, is inside you. It's already there.
Wow. That's huge.
It really is. This isn't something external you need to acquire or chase down. It completely flips the script on conventional wisdom, right?
Oh.
It suggests the ultimate treasure hunt isn't out there somewhere, but deep inside, just waiting to be activated. So the real challenge, then, isn't about finding something outside yourself. It's about learning how to effectively put this inherent spiritual wealth to use. And this book, Om Swami tells us, aims to make that process extremely simple, accessible, demystifying what might otherwise seem really complex, bringing it within reach for anyone who's genuinely seeking.
Okay, now, to fully grasp the profound significance of the Gayatri mantra, the book takes us on this epic journey back in time. It reveals its origin story, its genesis, through the captivating tale of King Kaushika and sage Vasishta. It starts with King Kaushika returning from this long, arduous, but ultimately victorious battle. His army, his whole entourage, they're utterly exhausted, worn out, and most critically, they've completely run out of provisions. Food. The king, deeply concerned about feeding his hungry soldiers, finds himself in a real bind. As this worry is consuming him, one of his ministers suggests, well, there's a small ashram in the nearby woods. Belongs to sage Vasishta. The minister cautions, though, that it's way too small to feed everyone, but perhaps they can at least find water and get some much-needed rest. So when they arrive, King Kaushika, with great reverence, prostrates before the sage, who is described as being almost as old as the universe itself, just emanating this profound glow from his face. The king humbly requests just a short rest for his weary men.
And here's where the miracle unfolds. Vasishta, seeing their exhaustion, just calmly responds, I'll make meal arrangements for all of you. Kaushika, quite amused, actually replies that he really doesn't think the sage can possibly feed his entire massive army. Vasishta's retort is so powerful. You underestimate the power of penance, O king. The one who does not seek anything, the one who does not need anything from the world, can create anything he so wishes.
Oh, wow.
Then he reveals the secret to this incredible abundance. His wish-fulfilling cow, Nandini, she's a calf of Indra's own Kamadhanu. She can grant anything needed, but only in the present moment and specifically for the welfare of others, not for selfish hoarding or future gain. This, the author says, is one of the greatest secrets of the universe. When you are truly fulfilled from within, deeply content, you can manifest fairly much anything in your life without struggle. It's such a stark contrast to the impatience, the self-centeredness, the kind of narrow-mindedness that often comes from not being fulfilled, from always chasing what you could have instead of appreciating what you already possess.
Right. So after witnessing this truly incredible feat feeding his entire army, effortlessly the king's mind starts to turn, doesn't it? He's a sage, an ascetic, Kaushika's pondering. What possible need does he have for a calf like that? What if I had it in my kingdom? I could feed everybody. I would become supreme. I could travel anywhere with my army with just this one calf beside us, and she would feed us all. We'd never run out of food. We could keep conquering territories after territories.
You can see the desire building.
Absolutely. This burning desire to possess Nandini, seeing her power as something that should rightly belong to a king for his own conquests, it begins to utterly consume him. And that basic foundation of Sanatana Dharma, respect for elders, for sages, it starts crumbling under the immense weight of his ambition. He actually demands Nandini from Vasishta, asserting his authority as the king.
And Vasishta, always calm, always composed, he just refuses. He explains Nandini's purpose again. It's for the welfare of others, aligning perfectly with nature's principle of not hoarding, but providing for the present moment's need. Kaushika, though, is completely unimpressed by this kind of philosophy. He declares, I am your king, and you are in my kingdom, and I am the one who is supporting you, therefore I demand that you give me your calf. Vasishta, with this chilling conviction, calmly replies, you cannot.
Just like that, you cannot.
Exactly. Kaushika, scoffing at this lone aging sage, then orders his men, take Nandini by force. In response, Vasishta just whispers a mantra and uses a kriya, a technique called stampan. Now, stampan is a really powerful method of causing anything to stop. It could be fire, rain, even air. In this case, Vasishta stopped Kaushika's entire army, just rooted them to the spot.
Unbelievable.
Their bodies became unbearably heavy, their joints began to ache intensely, and this extreme depression set in, making them feel suicidal. Several hours passed like this before Kaushika, utterly humiliated, defeated, and in total despair, finally apologized and pleaded for release.
So Kaushika returns to his palace, but with this fire of revenge just burning intensely in his heart. He'd been ridiculed, defeated by a sage who didn't even lift a weapon, and forced to beg for forgiveness in front of his own men. This was completely unbecoming of his royal status, He vowed then and there to attain the same power, if not even more, than Vasishta possessed. He decided to renounce his kingdom entirely, give it all up, and devote his life to tapas, which, the book explains, is penance not just as repentance, but as a profound spiritual invocation, a way to build inner heat and power. With immense fervor, Kaushika prayed to Lord Shiva for 1,000 years, asking for the finest, most potent divine weapons.
1,000 years.
1,000 years. And Shiva granted his request, giving him powerful astras, divine shafts, sonic missiles and shastras, impenetrable shields, unbreakable swords. Drunk on his new powers, still consumed by revenge, he marches right back to Vasishta's ashram, roaring challenges. But Vasishta effortlessly repelled all of Shiva's mighty weapons. Just like that.
Incredible resilience.
Undeterred, Kaushika then embarked on another 1,000-year penance, this time praying to Brahma, the absolute source of existence, to acquire the ultimate weapon, the Brahmastra. Yet even this most potent weapon, designed to literally annihilate creation, proved completely futile against Vasishta's serene, unshakable power.
And this is where Kaushika's profound realization finally hits him. This is the turning point, the ultimate transformation. After Brahmastra failed, he had this huge epiphany. No more. No more am I going to seek external weapons or harbor this animosity. Instead, I will aim to reach the same level of consciousness, rather super-consciousness, as Vasishta, this sage to whom even Indra bows down, whom the powers of the universe look up to.
That's the real shift.
That was his breakthrough moment. He quietly took Vasishta's leave and sat in searing penance for several thousand years more. But this time, his intention was different. He was wishing welfare for all sentient beings rather than seeking personal gain or power. With this awakened self, this heightened consciousness, he saw the most mystical of all mantras, the Gayatri mantra. He realized this mantra was the essence of the Vedas, the cause of creation, the one mantra that had the power to pull anyone out of any adversity, that congregation of divine sounds which could help one realize one's wildest dreams. It was through this complete inner transformation, this letting go of ego and revenge, that King Kaushika became Vishwamitra, meaning a friend of the whole world, and eventually he became a Brahmarishi, the highest honor any sage could have. And the truly incredible news for us today is that because the Gayatri mantra has already been invoked by someone of such incredible stature, someone who did such profound penance, well, someone has already dug the well, you just have to lower the bucket to fill it. It's truly accessible to all of us now, thanks to his efforts.
Wow. That incredible story of transformation really clarifies how mantra practice is just so far from mere rote repetition, isn't it? The author really emphasizes that it's not about becoming a parrot, just chanting and chanting without any feeling behind it. If you approach it like a burdensome task, just a chore to get through, you might completely miss the true transformative results. So what would you say is maybe the biggest mental hurdle someone new to this might face in cultivating that right consciousness, that faith that's required for mantra sadhana to really work?
That's a really crucial question because consciousness and faith are absolutely vital for mantra sadhana. They're non-negotiable, really. Without the right sentiment, the right feeling, the author explains, chanting might not yield those profound results you're hoping for. Though perhaps intellectual understanding might still come over time, it's a qualitative aspect of mantra science that just cannot be ignored. And the biggest hurdle, often it's our own intellectual mind, our tendency to try and understand everything logically before we allow ourselves to experience it.
The analysis paralysis.
Exactly. True discretion, and what the author calls discerning wisdom, that really emerges only after long, dedicated practice. It allows you to understand when and how to properly use the grace that might be bestowed upon you through the practice. This isn't about magical thinking, let's be clear. It's about deep inner alignment.
That distinction between just intellectual understanding and a deeper experiential faith. It brings to mind that fascinating anecdote the author shares about the factory worker. Do you remember that one?
Oh, yes, the 3 p.m. meeting.
Exactly. This dedicated individual, he insisted on leaving work at 3 p.m. sharp every single day for what he called a personal meeting. His boss, the department head, even the CEO, tried to get him to stay later one day for this really important high-paying order they'd received. They just couldn't comprehend why he wouldn't just extend his hours this one time. The CEO, completely flustered, finally pressed him. Whom do you possibly have to meet that's more important than this huge critical order? And the worker, totally calm, replied, "Well, sir, I have to meet the person who gave me this job."
You can imagine the CEO's reaction.
Right. The CEO initially thought he meant some hiring agent or manager. Then he got angry, exclaiming, "I gave you this job. This is my damn company." The worker then gently clarified, revealing he was referring to the divine, the ultimate giver of his life, his livelihood, everything. And the CEO apparently was so struck by this unwavering faith, this conviction, that he actually marked the guy's file to never bother him about leaving at 3 p.m. again.
Wow.
The worker stayed there until he retired. It's just such a powerful story about truly embodied faith.
That strong, unwavering faith is absolutely key, and it connects directly to another anecdote in the book about a senior bureaucrat. This official felt the chief minister was against him, and he was really fearing for his career, his position. The author's advice was incredibly simple. Did you do anything wrong? No. Then you don't have anything to worry about. Drop all your fears.
Just let it go.
Pretty much. Days later, the bureaucrat was amazed. Circumstances had somehow miraculously turned in his favor. Colleagues were now supporting him. Yet he was still worried about getting back into the chief minister's good books. He hadn't quite grasped the lesson. The author had to emphasize again, you have missed the point completely. The chief minister is not the maker of your destiny. He is just the medium. You just focus on doing the right thing consistently, and the right things will follow automatically. This really illustrates how when your faith is truly strong, rooted, every little incident doesn't blow up into a huge episode or feel like a mountain to climb. Adversity just can't shake you in the same way because you understand that ultimate control lies elsewhere, not in these fleeting external circumstances or powerful individuals.
And it's really crucial to clarify here, isn't it, that when we chant the Gayatri mantra, we're not really asking some external supernatural being to intervene or grant us wishes like a cosmic vending machine. Instead, what we're actually doing is invoking our own latent energy. We are awakening the incredible power that already resides deep within us.
Yes, that's a vital distinction.
The association with a specific deity, like Mother Gayatri, serves as this powerful tool. It helps with meditation, achieving better focus, clearer visualization, and ultimately more effective manifestation of that inner power. It's really a method of aligning with an aspect of the divine, which then helps you tap into your own inherent potential, rather than relying on some external entity to do all the work for you.
And this clarity on why we invoke deities, how it functions, also brings us to a really compelling cautionary tale shared in the book. It's about a sadhaka, a practitioner in Canada who had meditated devoutly on Gayatri for a long time. He gained some spiritual potency, but then he started using it to fulfill other people's material desires, just granting their specific wishes, whatever they asked for.
Oh dear.
Yeah. Fast forward 7 years, and the author found him profoundly changed. He'd lost his radiance, his spiritual power felt depleted. When he asked how to possibly regain it, the advice was very direct. Stop meeting people. Or, if he couldn't avoid it, don't just tell them that Mother Divine would grant their specific wish. Instead, simply pray to Mother to do whatever is right for them.
Discerning wisdom again.
Exactly. Because fulfilling their specific desires is not actually helping people. They don't really know what's right for them, do they? The book emphasizes that a truly good prayer wouldn't even ask for specific outcomes. Instead, it would be more like a humble surrender. God, please don't listen to me. I think I'm very smart. I think I've got it all figured out. But that's really not the truth. So please, if you will, don't listen to my specific requests. This approach ensures that any blessings that flow are aligned with the universal good, with what's truly beneficial, rather than being limited by our often short-sighted individual desires, which, let's face it, often don't bring lasting happiness anyway. It's about discerning wisdom over impulsive granting.
Okay, so let's unpack this a bit further. If purity is the ultimate goal here, and the author really stresses that the whole sadhana of Gayatri is fundamentally about purifying yourself, what does truly effective chanting actually look like?
Right.
It's clearly not just about racking up the numbers, how many rounds you do, or simply sounding like a parrot repeating sounds.
Right.
The author gives this really vivid analogy to illustrate this point. He talks about a man who buys an enlightened parrot. This parrot constantly chants, "Freedom! Freedom!" But when the cage door is open, the parrot never leaves. Why? Because it never actually understood what freedom was. It was just mimicking sounds.
Yeah. Powerful image.
Or, he says, it's like chanting food, food, but never actually satisfying your hunger. Chanting without awareness, without that conscious connection, he warns, won't take you anywhere.
Precisely. It becomes merely a verbal activity, almost mechanical, if it's done mindlessly. The book reveals 4 progressive stages of japa, or chanting. Each stage is associated with a different state of sound and consciousness. And this was illuminated, he shares, through his own intense sadhana experience way up in the Himalayas. The first type, the most basic, is vachika. This just means audible or verbal. This is where you chant out loud and others around you can easily hear you. It corresponds to the Vaikari sound, which is considered the grossest, most physical manifestation of sound, the kind produced artificially by a person's vocal cords. In the author's analogy of a very still lake, Vachika Japa is like tiny bubbles popping right at the surface because you're actively, physically producing the sound. It can be effective, especially in the beginning, to focus the mind, but it can also tire you out quickly and even create restlessness if done for very long periods.
Okay, so that's the audible chanting. What comes next?
The second stage is upanshu. This is essentially whispering the mantra. It's a quieter, more internalized form, only you can really hear the sound clearly, or perhaps someone sitting very, very close might catch it faintly. This naturally begins to draw the focus inward, making the practice more subtle, less external.
And then the third stage.
Following that is mansika. This is the third kind of chanting where you recall the entire mantra completely within your mind. Now, this isn't just letting your mind chatter away or randomly think the words. It's described as a gentle and conscious recollection of the mantra. He uses this lovely image. Imagine a tap dripping, just one drop after the other. Each section of the mantra falls, as it were, from the crown of your head, one distinct drop at a time. Om Brabhuvasa, drip, Tatsavitur Varanayama, drip, and so on, through the whole mantra.
Like a mental rhythm.
Exactly. This very intentional recollection helps the mind concentrate deeply and keeps those intrusive, random thoughts away more effectively. Both upanshu, whispering, and mansika, mental, are associated with madhyama, sound. This is a mental, unvocalized form where the sound vibrations are much more subtle, not yet fully expressed externally in the physical world. In our lake analogy with Mansika Japa, maybe the bubbles actually travel to the surface from deeper within, showing more internal activity, but still with a degree of awareness controlling them.
Okay, so audible, whispered, mental. What's the final, ultimate stage?
The ultimate, most profound stage is called a japa. If you put an A in front of japa in Sanskrit, it often means the opposite. So a japa literally means you're not actually chanting anymore. Instead, the experience is that the mantra is chanting itself. It's not something you do, it's something that happens to you. The practitioner becomes completely one with the mantra, vibrating with its sound, as if every single pore of your existence starts to reverberate with that sacred sound. It's very much like meditation in that sense. In the beginning, you actively do meditation, you make an effort. But as you progress, meditation just happens to you. It becomes a state of being rather than a specific action. This ajapa stage is where you connect to para sound, the primal, unmanifest sound, the soundless sound, if you will, that underpins all of creation. It's a deep, silent vibration beyond normal human perception.
So how does that relate back to the lake analogy?
Well, in the analogy of the still lake, when you reach the state of a japa, no bubbles form in the water at all. Absolute stillness. This represents the profound stillness of the mind where you experience extraordinary bliss and crystal clear awareness. And when you chant, or rather when chanting happens from such a pristine state of awareness, the book says, every word you utter will have a tremendous impact on your own consciousness and potentially on the world around you. The author also shares his personal practice from his Himalayan sadhana, which is really interesting, instead of meticulously counting beads for each round.
Which can sometimes make you rush, right? Just to hit the number.
Exactly. To avoid that trap, he would set a minimum time, like say 10 hours, for chanting each day. This prevents the mind from getting caught up in the counting and rushing, and instead fosters sustained awareness. It makes chanting a genuinely peaceful activity rather than feeling like, well, torture sometimes.
That really shifts the perspective, doesn't it? Away from just quantity, pure numbers, towards the quality of the experience. And the author consistently reminds us throughout the book that real spiritual progress isn't just evident in how many rounds you complete. It's seen in tangible changes in your inner state. Like his example. If you used to get easily upset maybe 10 times a day before starting the practice, and now it's only 5 times, that's clear, undeniable progress.
Absolutely.
It's not just about the numbers on a counter. It's about genuine internal transformation, how you react, how you feel.
And that progress, that inner transformation, can be profoundly amplified when you connect to a genuine spiritual lineage. The author recounts this fascinating story of Pandit Rajmani Tuganet. He apparently chanted a specific mantra for a long time, thousands of repetitions, without telling his guru, Swami Rama, and it had absolutely no effect. Later, Swami Rama, his guru, instructed him to chant that very same mantra, but only 10 times a day. Pandit Rajmani was initially quite skeptical, naturally, given his past fruitless efforts, but he followed the instruction anyway. Swami Rama then revealed something crucial. His own guru, through incredibly intense penance, had actually simplified that particular sadhana specifically for their lineage, making it fully effective with just 10 mindful chants.
Wow, so the groundwork was already laid.
Exactly. However, because Pandit Rajmani's ego had made him question the instruction and then secretly alter the prescribed number of rounds based on his own assumptions, Swami Rama told him that anyone after him in the lineage would now need to chant it 2,000 times daily to achieve the same result he could have gotten with just 10.
Oh, that's a heavy responsibility.
It is. The lesson is powerful. When you connect with a lineage, it becomes your signature. The grace, the accumulated spiritual energy, the power built up by past masters within that lineage can genuinely simplify the path for those who follow with faith and humility. It validates the effectiveness of the sadhana and makes it truly accessible in a way it might not be otherwise.
Okay, so that background is incredibly rich. How then do we apply this amazing wisdom in a structured way, especially within our busy modern lives? The book outlines 3 core categories of mantra sadhana. It provides a kind of clear roadmap for your spiritual journey, depending on your goals and commitment. The first category is nitya karma. This means something that's done routinely, daily. Think of it like attending school every day. You put on the uniform, you go, you mark your presence, you do the basic lessons. Well, it definitely has relevance for refreshing what you already know, for familiarizing yourself with the practice, building discipline. The author notes that nitya karma by itself doesn't necessarily give you that transformative power you might need for specific accomplishments or overcoming major obstacles.
It's the foundation.
Exactly. It's the daily discipline, the foundational groundwork, ensuring consistency, absolutely essential, but maybe not the whole picture if you have specific intentions.
Then we move to the second category, Naimittika karma. And the book states this is what truly differentiates, say, an ascetic, a real adept, from an average seeker or someone just doing daily practice. This type of sadhana is undertaken with a specific purpose in mind, a clear goal. It entails devoting a certain period of time and committing to a specific number of chants, for instance, chanting a particular mantra 125,000 times over 40 days, or maybe 200,000 times over 90 days, and so on. The author likens it beautifully to making a fixed deposit in your spiritual bank account.
I like that analogy.
It's great, isn't it? What you do during this focused period of dedicated chanting is what you accumulate. You're building a reserve, a potent spiritual energy that you can then draw upon in the future when needed.
Right. And the book shares that compelling anecdote about Tarun, who had apparently accumulated significant Naimittika karma through his dedicated practice. Years later, his uncle fell gravely ill, was suffering immensely. Though the author advised him to save his accumulated power, Tarun just couldn't bear to see his uncle suffer like that. So he consciously used his stored mantra energy to help the old man leave this world peacefully. Which raises an interesting point, though, doesn't it? That old saying. With great power comes great responsibility.
It absolutely does. And the book emphasizes this very strongly. If you accumulate this kind of subtle spiritual energy, you have a great responsibility not to use it selfishly or frivolously. Ideally, it should be used for the welfare of others, particularly maybe for those to whom you're not directly personally connected. To avoid attachment, the author warns quite clearly that if you are interfering in the play of nature, somewhere, somehow, you must pay the price. There are consequences, so any intervention has to be done in accordance with nature, with wisdom and detachment. And understanding this is actually part of Naimittika karma itself. This category also introduces the core concept of Purusharana, which, as you said, is the primary focus of this whole book.
Yes, exactly. And that leads us to the third step, Kamya Prayoga. This is essentially the application of this accumulated spiritual wealth, the Purusharana, using it for a desired or desirable outcome. This is where you actually use that spiritual fixed deposit you've meticulously built up through your Naimittika karma. And as you said, the book really zeroes in on Purusharana as its central theme, defining it quite clearly as invoking a mantra and saving its energy for future use. It's all about systematically building up those spiritual reserves.
And what's truly fascinating here, from a practical standpoint, is the subtle physical manifestation that often accompanies the initiation of this practice. The author notes that you might actually experience a general rise in your body temperature within the first few days of starting your Purusharana.
Oh, really? Like a slight fever?
Sort of, but not necessarily illness. It's not usually cause for alarm. It's believed to be because chanting the Gayatri mantra, particularly the Savitur Gayatri form focused on in the book, stimulates the Pingala Nadi, the solar channel in your subtle body. It ignites your internal fire, your Agni. This is actually why Savitur Gayatri has, since ancient times, traditionally been chanted while standing in a river, facing the rising sun, and offering libations, argya, towards the sun.
Ah, that makes sense. Connecting the inner and outer sun.
Precisely. It aligns the internal energy with the external cosmic solar energy, creating this powerful resonance.
So the book details two main types of Purusharana, each with different levels of commitment, right?
That's right.
The first is Sadharana Purusharana, which translates as the standard invocation. This is considered the bare minimum, the starting point, really, to begin accumulating the energy of the Gayatri mantra in a focused way. It requires a minimum commitment of 100,000 chants. Ideally, the book suggests this should be completed over a period of 40 days. That works out to roughly 2,500 to 3,000 chants every day.
Which is quite a commitment in itself.
It definitely is. However, it's also permissible to extend this over 60, 90, or even up to 120 days, depending on your personal schedule and capacity. The key is completing the total count with intention. So building that initial reservoir, laying the proper spiritual groundwork. And then there's the really big one, the Mahapurusharana, or the grand invocation. This is described as the ultimate form of this practice. This involves chanting the Gayatri mantra. Wait for it. 3,200,000 times.
3.2 million. It's an immense number.
It really is. And that number is deeply significant within the tradition. It's pegged to the 24 varnas or syllables of the complete Gayatri mantra, including the Om and the Vyartis Bhuva, Bhuva, Svaha, multiplied by certain factors. It reflects the mantra's inherent structure and its connection to cosmic cycles and principles. This grand invocation is typically undertaken over a much more prolonged period, usually ranging from 24 to 32 months. That's 2 to almost 3 years of dedicated daily practice.
And the rewards promised for completing a Mahapushcharana are simply immense. They're profound. The author states quite unequivocally that anyone who undertakes 3.2 million chants of the Gayatri mantra with sincerity and devotion is bound to have the grace of Devi, the Divine Mother, in immeasurable, inexplicable ways. He promises that new dimensions of consciousness, new ways of thinking, and new areas of knowledge and wisdom opens up to anyone who dedicates themselves fully to this Mahapushcharana. And if it's done with unwavering devotion, focus, and purity of intention, you can also potentially attain what is called Vaksiddhi.
Vaksiddhi. What exactly is that?
It translates literally as perfection of speech. It's a profound state where when you say something from your heart with pure intention, it becomes the truth. Your words gain immense power to manifest reality. This is believed to be how the ancient sages achieved such exalted states of realization and performed acts that seem miraculous to us today. It's a profound transformation of your entire being, your consciousness, your very energy signature. Not just a spiritual exercise, but a complete recreation of the self.
Okay, wow.
Yeah.
That's a serious commitment, the Mahapushcharana. But even for the standard one, the process seems quite involved. The book outlines this really comprehensive method, doesn't it? With a full 35 steps for serious seekers wanting to undertake Gayatri Sadhana properly. Now, obviously, we won't go through every single one of those 35 steps right now.
That would be a deep dive in itself.
Exactly. But maybe we can touch on some of the key ones, just to give everyone listening a real flavor of the depth, the intentionality involved in this transformative practice. Because these aren't just arbitrary rules or empty rituals, are they? Each step seems to serve a specific purpose in aligning your mind, body, and spirit for the invocation.
Absolutely. They are meticulously designed. The comprehensive method begins, interestingly, with permission. Taking permission. This involves first taking a bath, then sitting at your altar or sacred space after sunset. You take a little water in your right palm, and you mentally, sincerely seek permission from Divine Mother Gayatri herself, and also from the other forces of nature, asking them to allow you to complete her sadhana successfully without obstacles. After making this request, you perform a specific number of Gayatri mantra chants using Rudraksha beads. The book suggests 3, 7, 10, or 30 rounds, a round being 108 times, depending on the type of invocation you're planning to undertake. The author mentions he personally chants 10,000 times as part of his own preparatory ritual before a major sadhana.
10,000.
Yes. And crucially, after the chanting, you then sleep in that very same place where you chanted. This really sets the intention firmly, establishes your sacred space right from the beginning, and grounds your commitment to the practice you're about to undertake.
Okay, so permission first. Then the next crucial preparatory steps are bathing and putting on fresh clothes before you actually begin the main chanting session each day. And the book emphasizes this isn't just about physical hygiene, though that's important too. It's really about a fresh start on multiple levels. A profound cleansing for your body, yes, but also for your heart and mind. Allowing you to shed the impurities, the stresses, the mental noise of the day, and approach the divine presence with renewed purity and focus.
A reset.
Exactly, a daily reset. The author shares that beautiful story about Buddha here. Someone asked him if he remembered being insulted quite harshly the day before, and Buddha apparently replied, "Tathagata does not know yesterday, I only know today, this moment."
Living in the now.
Precisely. It illustrates that profound idea of living entirely in the present moment, of allowing yourself a completely fresh start each day, unbound by the baggage of the past as you begin your sadhana. It's about embodying that spirit of newness, of purity, with every single session.
After bathing and putting on fresh clothes, the next step is purification, or pavitrakaranam. This involves chanting a specific mantra, Om Apavitra Pavitrova, while sprinkling a few drops of water on yourself and around your space. Traditionally, this is done using the ring finger of the right hand, dipped in water. You consciously keep the index finger away, as in some traditions it represents the ego or ignorance. This is a symbolic act, yes, but it's meant to purify yourself inside out by meditating on the divine, purifying energy contained within the water, preparing your inner landscape for the mantra. Following this comes akamana. This is where you take 3 small sips of water from your right palm.
Why 3 sips specifically?
It's done 3 times to signify the purification of your body, your mind, and your consciousness, the 3 levels of your being. It also represents the 3 planes of existence mentioned in the Gayatri mantra itself: Bhur, earthly; Bhuva, intermediate astral; and Sva, heavenly causal. and the 3 states of consciousness: waking, dreaming, and deep sleep. So it's about ensuring alignment across all these different levels of your being before you start. And the book makes a really important point here regarding inclusivity. After initiation into a mantra lineage, traditional distinctions based on birth, like specific caste rules sometimes associated with Achamana, they don't apply anymore. You belong to the mantra's lineage itself, which transcends those social constructs, emphasizing the universal accessibility of this profound practice.
Okay, this next step sounds absolutely crucial. Sankalpa, the vow. This is where, as the book says, the transformation truly begins to take root. It's described as a formal, powerful declaration of your precise intention for the sadhana you're undertaking.
Yes, it's the statement of intent. Very important.
You state your full name, your gotra, which is your lineage, or if you don't know it or don't have one traditionally, you use Narayana Gotra, symbolically meaning child of the divine, which includes everyone. You also state your date of birth, the specific mantra name you're invoking, for example, Savitur Gayatri, the exact number of days you commit to chanting, and your precise purpose. This purpose could be a broad intention, like simply for the grace of Admana Gayatri, seeking her blessing. Or it could be a more specific aim, like to become a worthy recipient of your grace and attain a specific desired outcome, stated humbly.
It clarifies your why.
Exactly. And this solemn vow, this commitment, is then solidified. You pour the water that you held in your palm during the declaration at the base of a living tree, like a tulsi plant or any tree nearby. This symbolizes grounding your intention in nature, making it a firm witness commitment to the universe. It's like signing a spiritual contract with yourself and the divine.
Following that very significant vow, we have a practice called mantrashvasa, which translates to mantra breathing. This is described as a powerful and very effective practice for accumulating energy. It involves synchronizing your inhalation and your exhalation with the chanting of the Gayatri mantra. Typically, you do this for 3 rounds. You might close one nostril, inhale while mentally chanting the first part of Gayatri, hold briefly, then exhale through the other nostril while chanting the second part, and then reverse the process. The beauty of this is that it can even be performed quietly while you're walking, commuting on a train, or sitting somewhere waiting. It helps you accumulate subtle energy throughout your daily life, not just during your formal sitting practice. The author likens it to doing internal shift work. The more mindful shifts you put in, the more energy you naturally accumulate, and you get used to the subtle yet potent background practice.
Okay, next up is a step described as one of the most important in the entire process, nyasa, which means unification with the mantra.
Yes, nyasa is fundamental.
The core idea behind nyasa, as the book explains it, is that through this practice, you no longer remain just a body, but you become a mantra. It sounds like a profound transformation. The goal is to systematically rise above your ordinary sense of self, your self-centeredness, selfishness, jealousy, hatred, negativity, all that stuff.
Transcending limitations.
Exactly. And this is achieved ritually by mentally placing various syllables or biha mantras derived from the main mantra onto different parts of your physical body. You touch each part and mentally imbue it with the mantra's specific energy and quality. The purpose isn't just purification, although that's part of it. It's really about becoming at par with the object of your worship, with the deity, with the mantra itself. You're dissolving the ego, the sense of separation, and becoming one with that divine vibration.
And building on that idea of the mantra's components, the book briefly touches upon the Shadanga, which means the 6 limbs or essential parts of any mantra. Understanding these helps deepen the practice. These 6 limbs include the mantra itself, the bij or seed syllable, which is considered crucial for activating the mantra's long-term latent energy, the devata or the specific deity associated with the mantra, the rishi or the original seer who first perceived or saw the mantra in deep meditation, the chanda or the specific poetic meter which dictates its correct rhythm and recitation, and finally its shakti or the inherent energy or power of the mantra. Not all mantras have this, but some also have what's called an utkilan, often a specific seed syllable or a short phrase that acts like a key or a password to fully unlock the mantra's latent power.
Unlock it. Why would it be locked?
Well, according to some traditions mentioned in the book, Lord Shiva initially locked or veiled the power of many mantras to prevent their misuse by those with impure intentions or insufficient preparation. So, Utkilan is the process, the key you use to nail down or effectively unlock that hidden, dormant power within the mantra, allowing it to function fully for the dedicated practitioner.
Right, that makes sense. Then comes a step called mantra samskara, or invoking the mantra. This sounds like treating the mantra with respect.
Exactly. It's about extending proper courtesy to the living energy of the mantra, recognizing it as a conscious force. It's conceptually similar to the 16 important milestones, or samskaras, that mark transitions in a traditional Hindu human life, like birth, marriage, etc. You're performing rites for the mantra itself. Specifically for the Gayatri mantra, the primary samskar performed is called shap vimochana, which literally means absolving from curses.
Curses. The Gayatri mantra was cursed.
According to the tradition cited in the book, yes. It was said to have been cursed at different times by Brahma, Vasistha, and even Vishwamitra himself. Primarily, it's understood, to prevent its immense power from being misused by those who would seek it only for selfish ends or worldly gain, without the necessary purity or wisdom. So to remove these historical energetic curses and allow the mantra to bestow its full, unhindered power upon the sincere practitioner of today, specific Shap Vimochana mantras associated with each of these three figures are chanted typically 7 times each, or at a bare minimum, thrice. This is done to ensure the mantra is free to bestow its complete grace without any lingering energetic impediments from the past. Okay, so after you've completed your main chanting session for the day, following all those preparatory steps, we come towards the end of the ritual with Japa Samarpana. This means offering your chanting to the deity. This is a really crucial step that helps cultivate a higher sense of consciousness, moving beyond just personal gain or accumulation. The book emphasizes the attitude here. We haven't done this japa just for us, for our own benefit, but for the welfare of all sentient beings. This profoundly shifts the perspective from any kind of selfish accumulation towards universal benefit and compassion.
That changes everything, doesn't it?
It really does. The practitioner visualizes Mother Gayatri and mentally offers all the chanting they've just done into her left hand, symbolically the receiving hand. It's pictured like a child who has earned something, maybe a small coin, and they run to their parents and give it to them for safekeeping. You then sincerely pray for everyone's welfare, perhaps using a universal peace mantra like Sarve Bhavantu Sukhina, may all beings be happy. This fosters a deep sense of interconnectedness and selfless service through your practice.
And then there are the final concluding rituals, which ensure the proper completion of the sadhana each day or at the end of the whole period. First, there's Visarjana, which means freeing energies. This is where you gracefully and gratefully see off any specific divine energies or beings you may have invoked during your japa. You thank them for their presence and support and politely ask them to return to their abodes, but also to be with you again next time you call upon them. It's like politely saying goodbye to honored guests.
Exactly. Then comes tarpan, which are libations. These are typically water offerings made to the deity of your mantra. The general rule is that the number of tarpan offerings should be 1/10 the number of your fire offerings, homa, if you're doing those. If not, a specific number might be prescribed. You usually add the word tarpyami, I am satisfying or offering, to the end of the Gayatri mantra while pouring a small amount of water, often over your hand or into a vessel.
And finally, marjanam, or abhishekam. This sounds grand, like a spiritual coronation.
That's exactly the feeling. The idea is that having diligently performed the mantra and its associated ceremonies, you are now, in a sense, no longer just an ordinary human being. You've aligned yourself with the divine, mirrored your object of worship. You are imbued with that energy.
So how is this coronation performed?
To perform marjanam, you simply sprinkle a little consecrated water on your own head. This symbolizes that you are crowning yourself with the divine energy you've invoked. Traditionally, you might join your ring finger and thumb, dip them in the water used for the rituals, and sprinkle it gently on your head while chanting, Om Marjami. I am purifying, crowning myself. This ritual signifies that you are now filled with divine grace and confidence, and it frees you to roam around fearlessly like a king, as the book puts it, imbued with that inner strength and divine protection. There's a beautiful quote related to this. Even a beggar becomes king and roams fearlessly, if even a tiny bit of the devotion from such practice reaches somebody's ears. It emphasizes the immense transformative power available regardless of your external circumstances.
And crucially, this comprehensive method doesn't just end with personal rituals. It concludes with charity, often referred to as satakabojan, feeding the practitioner aspirant.
Yes, this is essential. It grounds the practice in selfless action.
This typically involves feeding people on the final day of your entire sadhana period, like the 40 days. Or perhaps setting aside a small amount of money each day with the firm intention of donating it to a worthy cause at the end. And the book clarifies, this isn't just about giving food randomly. It's about consciously feeding God present in living entities, recognizing the divine spark in all beings.
Seeing the sacred everywhere.
It ensures that the fruit, the energy generated from your spiritual practice, extends tangibly to benefit someone beyond your immediate family or personal sphere. It has to ripple outwards.
It could be feeding a fellow spiritual aspirant, or a knowledgeable Brahmin in a temple, donating to an orphanage or an old age home, or even something as simple as regularly feeding birds or other animals. The core idea is that your accumulated spiritual energy should translate into concrete, selfless help for others in the world. It completes the cycle of receiving grace and giving back, making the practice truly holistic.
Phew, it's incredibly detailed. We've just explored the really intricate personal ritual of the Gayatri mantra sadhana. But this ancient wisdom also offers pathways for connection that go beyond the individual, right? Bringing us to another fascinating and really powerful dimension, the tradition of fire, the yajna, which seems so central to the whole framework of Sanatana Dharma.
It absolutely is. The use of fire, Agni, is incredibly central to Sanatana Dharma. It marks beginnings and ends throughout life. From the fire of passion that is said to seed our physical bodies at conception, all the way to the cremation fire that signifies the ultimate end of the physical journey. Fire rituals are fundamentally an expression of profound gratitude. Gratitude for all the elements, the forces of nature, the divine energies that govern our lives and make existence possible. A yajna, the word itself, can be interpreted as helping us realize the truth of the present moment. Understanding that our entire life is a series of present moments, and that all of creation is, in a sense, an ongoing offering, an unceasing yajna.
The book briefly outlines 5 main types of yajna, these offerings or sacrifices. Could you recap those quickly?
Sure. First, there's Bhuta yajna. These are offerings directed towards all living beings, animals, plants, even unseen entities. It involves actions like feeding animals, planting trees, and generally using natural resources mindfully and respectfully. Second is Manusha Yajna. This is focused on humans' acts of charity, hospitality, showing respect to guests and elders, contributing to social welfare. Third is Pitrayajna. These are offerings and remembrances directed towards our ancestors, honoring their legacy and seeking their blessings. And then the 2 that are most relevant to our discussion here. Deva Yajna, which are offerings made specifically to the gods or cosmic forces, often via water or significantly fire. And finally, Brahma Yajna. This is considered the highest yajna, an offering to the entire universe, the absolute reality, Brahman, primarily through the chanting and study of Vedic mantras like the Gayatri.
So the chanting itself is an offering.
Exactly. This latter one really highlights how sound itself is considered the first, most fundamental connection with divine energy in mantra sadhana. The chanting is the offering, embodying the creative force itself. Now, for practical purposes, when we talk about Devayajna involving fire, the book details the practice of homam or agnihotra, which are fire offerings. While the exact setup can vary quite a bit depending on the scale and purpose of the offering, the core idea involves creating a dedicated fire pit known as a kunda. Often this is constructed simply with bricks, maybe 8 bricks for a smaller ritual, making 108 offerings, or 18 bricks for 1,000 offerings, usually with layers of sand underneath for safety and insulation. This contains the heat and ensures the ritual is performed with reverence and care. The key elements offered into the fire typically include ghee, clarified butter, which symbolizes purity, nourishment, and the fuel for transformation, and often samagri or charu, which are specific mixtures of sacred ingredients like herbs, grains, seeds, and sweets, each representing various aspects of creation being offered back thankfully to the divine fire.
And what about the actual process of making the fire offerings? How does that work?
Well, typically you'd place some firewood, like mango wood or specific types prescribed for rituals, in the prepared kunda, and light it, perhaps using a simple mantra or just some camphor to get it started. Once the fire is burning steadily, you begin making your offerings. A really important point the book stresses is that every offering made into the sacred fire must end with the sacred syllable svaha.
Svaha, what does that mean exactly?
In Sanskrit, svaha literally means something like to burn completely or well offered. It's understood as the name of the energy aspect of the fire god Agni, specifically his consort, who is responsible for carrying the offerings to their intended divine destination. Chanting svaha ensures the offering is properly conveyed and accepted, taking any afflictions or impurities along with it to be consumed and purified by the fire. So you'd make some initial offerings just with ghee, then you'd chant the Gayatri mantra followed by svaha for each offering of ghee or samagri. And finally, at the very end of the ritual, there's usually a purna ahuti. This is a final, complete offering, often consisting of a whole dry coconut filled with yajna ingredients and ghee, symbolizing the culmination, the wholeness, and the successful completion of the entire fire ritual.
Wow. Okay, so we've covered the deep philosophy, the epic origin story, the intricate steps of personal sadhana, the fire rituals. Now, to bring all this ancient wisdom and sometimes complex ritual back down to earth, back to a powerfully human story, the book closes with the truly remarkable tale of Kalavati. She was a woman who, despite facing incredible hardship, being widowed very young, living in abject poverty, working long hours, doing dishes in people's homes just to support her 4 children somehow, she came to embody the profound, living, transformative power of mantra practice.
Yes, her story is incredibly moving and inspiring.
The author knew her from his own childhood. He mentions that when he was barely 4 years old, he didn't even realize she'd ever had a husband. He just thought she'd always been that way, just her and her children struggling along.
And here's where Kalavati's transformation becomes truly striking, almost unbelievable if you didn't hear it firsthand. Over the years, the author writes, something remarkable happened to Kalavati. Her face started to shine like the sun. It wasn't just cosmetics or anything. He notes she had not just a soft glow to her skin, but a radiance so striking as if it was just flowing from her, like light from within. Even when she was 60 years old, he says, she had not even one wrinkle on her face. This is despite her incredibly difficult circumstances, living in just a single small room with her children, often without enough money for even basic things like soap or slippers.
That's astonishing.
It really is. Her heels were apparently cracked from years of hard labor, walking barefoot, but her face just glowed mightily, often framed by matted locks of hair from her intense devotion. It was a living testament to her powerful inner spiritual practice, shining through despite the outer poverty.
And her spiritual insight, her intuition, was apparently just as striking as her appearance. She would apparently predict details of future events with incredible, uncanny precision. For instance, she once told the author's sister, completely unprompted, that some people were coming the very next day to discuss a marriage proposal for her. She didn't just say that, though. She specified they'd arrive in a white car, high car, and that the potential groom would be wearing a shirt with stripes.
Such specific details.
Right. And she also added that they would end up staying longer than planned and that the sister would eventually get married into that family. Well, the very next day, a white Tata Sierra, a high SUV, arrived, carrying a fair-skinned boy who was indeed wearing a striped shirt.
No way.
Yes. And they were delayed leaving because, unbelievably, he locked his keys in the car. Everything came to pass, word for word, exactly as Kalavati had said. Except, interestingly, the marriage itself didn't happen in the end. But the prediction of the event was spot on. She also accurately predicted the author's own eventual move abroad years before it even seemed like a possibility.
You know, this highlights a really fascinating aspect of the practice that the book touches upon. The author notes that when you perform practices like mudras, hand gestures, and nyasa, placing mantra syllables on the body, correctly and consistently over time, it truly leads to the development of discerning wisdom, or viveka. This clarity enables one to perceive things and speak about them objectively, like a radiologist reading a report or scan, rather than speaking from personal attachment, wishful thinking, or desire for certain things to happen.
So it wasn't necessarily fortune-telling in the usual sense.
Exactly. This discerning wisdom could explain Kalavati's seemingly predictive abilities. It likely wasn't magic, but rather an objective, deeply intuitive insight into the subtle flow of events, a clarity born of her profound spiritual purity and detachment.
And the depth of her faith, her surrender, was truly put to the ultimate, most heart-wrenching test imaginable. The book recounts the deeply moving, frankly horrifying story of Kalavati's daughter suffering massive third-degree burns all over her body due to horrific dowry violence inflicted by her in-laws.
It's just an awful story.
It is. This was an extraordinarily painful event, a profound personal tragedy for any mother to endure. Yet the author emphasizes, through it all, Kalavati's faith never questioned her faith, never faltered, not once. She wasn't like, as the author puts it, a beggar or a traitor in her devotion. She didn't view bhakti, her devotion to Shiva, as some kind of business transaction where you put in prayers and expect immediate rewards or a quid pro quo, especially protection from suffering.
That's a really key distinction.
Absolutely. Instead, her faith was unwavering, unconditional, even in the face of immense, unimaginable suffering. It's a powerful testament to what true unconditional surrender looks like. It really challenges our modern, often transactional understanding of faith and devotion, doesn't it?
Her humility was also just profound. It shines through in the stories. She consistently refused offers of material comforts, like an air conditioner or even a water cooler for her small room, always citing her children's needs first or worrying about the burden of electricity bills she couldn't afford. She lived incredibly simply, spending most of her time in her tiny room with just a picture of Lord Shiva, chanting his name practically all day and all night. That was her world. She eventually accepted some money to help secure a slightly better room, but only after the author's mother persistently insisted over a long period. It just demonstrates her profound detachment from material possessions and her singular focus on her inner cultivation, her relationship with the divine.
And I remember reading about that truly profound, almost mystical moment the author describes. When he met her once on a visit back home, he bowed down respectfully to receive her blessings. Kalavati, being deeply immersed in her devotional state, her bhava, apparently gave him quite a hard slap on my back. Not angry, just intense.
Wow, that's unexpected.
Totally. But he writes that he distinctly felt in that moment that he had been given something special, something intangible, but incredibly potent, a unique, almost indescribable experience. He felt, he says, that he had somehow received the fruit of all his own years of dedicated Shiva sadhana in that single powerful touch from her.
Like a direct energetic transmission.
Exactly. A true blessing conveyed beyond words or conventional understanding, proving that profound spiritual energy can be transmitted in the most unexpected, even startling ways, especially from someone so deeply absorbed in devotion.
Kalavati's story really concludes as this powerful, living testament to the transformative power of mantra, faith, and devotion. She eventually stopped her work doing dishes entirely, spending her last days solely immersed in chanting. And observers noted that with each passing day, she looked visibly younger, more radiant. The author describes a radiance that seemed to emanate from within her skin, making her face utterly beautiful despite her age and past hardships. She passed away peacefully, without any apparent pain or suffering, in the very same small, sacred space where she had dedicated countless hours to her practice. And the author's conclusion about her is just incredibly poignant and sums it all up. Om Namah Shivaya was not what she uttered, it was what she had become.
Oh, yeah.
She exemplified the ultimate power of sound, devotion, and unwavering faith, completely transcending her lack of formal literacy, her poverty, or any other external circumstances. Her life itself became a living embodiment of the mantra's essence, showing that inner miracle made beautifully manifest in a human being.
So after all that, what does this all mean for you, listening right now? We've journeyed through some incredibly deep ancient wisdom. We've witnessed epic transformations like King Kaushika becoming the great sage Vishwamitra, and we've heard these deeply personal, moving stories of profound, unwavering faith, like Kalavati's. The path of the Gayatri mantra, as Om Swami so generously shares it in his book, is ultimately about unlocking the truly immense power that, believe it or not, already resides within each and every one of us.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, think about it. This profound knowledge, these powerful techniques, which were once meticulously guarded, often reserved for just a select few, maybe ascetics in Himalayan caves or learned Brahmins, is now being openly shared. It's being made accessible to absolutely everyone. The author explicitly states his reason. He shares everything without discrimination because he firmly believes everybody is entitled to all the wisdom that is there, all of it. This approach fosters unification rather than division, doesn't it? It allows this ancient, potent wisdom to serve humanity as a whole, providing practical tools for inner growth and transformation to anyone who sincerely seeks them, regardless of background or status.
And just remember that incredible story of King Kaushika, how he transformed from this power-hungry, vengeful monarch into Vishwamitra, literally a friend of the whole world, and eventually attained the highest spiritual status, a Brahma Rishi. It stands as such a powerful testament to the potential for radical inner transformation that exists within each of us. The author puts it beautifully. If Kaushika can become Vishwamitra, a Brahma Rishi, then each of us can rise above this conditioning. All our ingrained limitations, our self-centered tendencies, all the mental baggage and past hurts that hold us back. Transformation is possible.
But the essence, as the book repeatedly emphasizes again and again, is personal practice. It's not enough to just read about it. Simply reading this book or even receiving a formal initiation into the mantra, that's really just the beginning. It's like getting the map or the key to the car. The true aha moment, the real journey of transformation, the actual driving that unfolds only when you embark on your own path. When you actively choose the practices that resonate most deeply with your own unique temperament, your current life circumstances, and your personal spiritual goals. The well of wisdom, as Vishwamitra showed us, has already been dug. The potential is there. You just need to take the step of lowering your own bucket to fill it.
So, as you reflect on this deep dive we've taken today, maybe just consider this. What subtle shifts, maybe even tiny ones, could you begin to make in your own daily life inspired by this ancient wisdom to start lowering your bucket? To begin drawing from that incredible, ever-present well of inner radiance, strength, and wisdom that's already waiting within you?